What is up, you guys? The Fallout What If here, and today I'm going to do a What If. I know that I was supposed to do the God of War one, but a lot of my a lot of the videos that I was doing and I saved up, they got corrupted. So yeah, I had to do something. So I decided to do a new one. Even though it may just be a one-hitter, we'll go with this one. Alright? This is what if Deku had an omni sword Quirk. Now, Deku has a powerful ability. I mean, one that would rival One for All and All for One. Because it's technically going to be the same thing as those two, but with a sword. Now, what happens is, when Deku was born, Deku is just leading a normal life, but his family, Hisashi's side, is basically that of sword users. And how this whole thing works is, Hisashi's like 16th generation, because of, you know, how futuristic My Hero is. It's like possibly it's possibly like his own like, you know, like his 16th generation grandfather basically made a family. And his family made swords, but their swords were always plunged into people, killing people. Basically, they're like the families. Like his family was like war family. It was like the family of Wrath itself. So how that goes is, let's see. Let's call him Musashi. Musashi basically was a warrior who'd slaughtered hundreds of people, even thousands to say the least, drowning each time he stabbed his sword into somebody. Basically, his sword got much more stronger and much more powerful. And it is when he got stabbed with his own sword and survived, he had a new connection with his weapon, making the sword and him stronger. They were feared among the lands, and when he had children, his children got stronger, and they were technically more successful than Musashi. And this is when they became much more known as soul swords. So after a long generation, the clan itself gotten weaker. The clan itself, because guns and all that stuff, and there's not that much to like go into with Musashi's bloodline. But well, when Quirks got around, that's when that's when the power of their swords became strong again. Such as people's quirks revolve around their sword itself, making them stronger in a way. Hisashi is now a general in an army, and basically he's basically the head of a household, but he's also someone in the military. And this isn't like the Edo period. I'm talking about like the future, like the My Hero timeline. So he works for Japan and the government, and he trades their soldiers. So yeah, he pretty much does that, and after that he goes home. And how he met Inko was basically, Inko was like someone who was just going to school one day, And these two were like their own thing. This is before Hisashi became like a father, or even a general. He met Hisashi. Hisashi met Inko at school, and basically, they fell in love. They fell for each other at first sight. Love at first sight. So when that all happened, this is when basically Deku. Let's see. This was technically when Deku was born. Like probably 5 years after they were. They're like 24. So Deku was born. So Hisashi, wait a minute. Okay, so I kind of messed up on the timeline now. Okay, so Hisashi had kids. Hisashi had kids with Inko at the age of 24. I'm sorry, guys. I almost caught myself slipping, but Deku had kids. I mean, no, not Deku. Hisashi had kids, and he had like 4 to 5 kids. Deku was the baby of the family. And Hisashi, technically, there's like a big household. It is called the Wrath household, which was technically the very first household of like the 16th the 16th generation Musashi. So that house has never left anywhere. It's just been the same place. And when Deku was born, like 7 years later, after like the firstborn, he kept having kids with her. He kept having a lot of kids with her. So that became a thing. And Deku didn't like become like super powerful at first. All right. When he was born, they tested him to see if he had any quirks. Even if he didn't have a sword quirk, he'll be in the lower branch family. If he did have a sword quirk, he'll be in the higher branch family, which will serve as like, people that will protect the place with their lives. Oh, and all that good stuff. So when Deku was born, they checked Hisashi placed his sword on Deku's stomach lightly, because the sword is kind of heavy, so you don't want to freaking choke Deku out at his birth. But yeah, they found out he had a quirk. So when that all happened, Deku, like, the sword shined. The sword became much more like shinier and shinier, and Deku's body started to glow. And this is when they're like, okay, so our son, he has a sword quirk. But when he was at the age of 4, it turns out he didn't have a sword. It turns out that his sword quirk was just basically a summoning sword. So when Hisashi found out that, he has a sword quirk, but not any ability, he became sad in a way, because the youngest child could have been something. But this is when Hisashi says, it doesn't matter, because you still have a sword quirk, we're not going to hate you. I mean, we're not going to hate you if you don't have one, but it just means that you're not going to be at least known as the lower. We don't have to make an excuse saying, oh, he doesn't have a sword quirk at all. So yeah, every male in the household has a sword quirk. Every female with a sword quirk is like, how do I say it? It's even better, because if somebody like outside has a quirk, they can basically have a child, which will be, which will guarantee them a baby of sword quirks. Which, it's basically Deku having a sword quirk, So, at the age of 4, when he trains, he uses his sword that basically comes out of his body, and he summons it, and he starts training with it. But after a while, he just doesn't want to train. At the age of 5, Hisashi says, "Why don't you want to train, son?" Deku says, "I really don't want to fight. I mean, there's no reason to. There's nothing good about it for me. I don't have any power, so all I'm doing is just waiting until I get married and I have my own and if I have a kid too, I'm pretty much just someone who's going to, well, be granted, give somebody else a quirk." Deku was trying to say this in child talk, but I didn't know how to say it in child talk. But Hisashi understands what he's trying to say. But he says, "Why don't you spar with your brother?" And this is the oldest one. So he says, "Don't worry, little one. I'll make sure that you're not going to get hurt or killed." And this is when these two start, hitting swords with each other. And he says, "That's a good form. Keep it up." And this is when Hisashi realizes that all Deku's doing is blocking. And Deku says, "Alright, let me just, I'm just going to keep blocking. That's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to hit you at all. Because I'm scared of what quirk you have." Now, his brother is going to be known as Lee. Just Lee. Alright? His brother has a quirk called Sidestep, which basically makes him very fast for a couple of seconds, making him look like he's appearing from one place to another. So Deku is trying to fight with him. So while these two are basically it's just basically Deku blocking and Deku not hitting him, Hisashi says, "Come on, Izuku, attack him." Deku says, I'm scared of hitting him. He's gonna hit me back harder." And this is what Hisashi says. "Exactly. You must learn how to become strong one day. You don't want to be weak and have to you don't want to be weak and let somebody down." And this is when Hisashi says, "That's easy for you to say, because you're strong. You're very strong. You don't have to. You don't have to worry about, yourself." And this is when Hisashi says, "Come on, Izuku. I believe in you. Don't think of yourself as a weakling. If you continue this path, you're destined to fail. If you at least push back, you at least have a chance at winning." And this is when Deku tries to use his sword quirk. And this is when he tries to swing at him. But this is when Lee parries it and pushes him back, causing Deku to fall. And Lee says, "Sorry, little bro, but I had to at least hit you once." And this is when Deku basically is scared, and he basically is, he sidesteps. And what this does is basically Deku, when he at least sees somebody use their quirk, he can now understand how it works. Give it the best possible, way of, how do I say it? Basically, comes to the conclusion on how to use it, and when all is done, when everything is done, Deku can copy it and now use it for himself. The problem is, he can only use 2 quirks at once. Not only that, if he changes to anybody else's quirks, then he can't use the quirk previously the next day. So, to make this simple, he uses Denki's quirk, Kaminari's quirk, and Monetta's quirk. But if he uses some, let's say Bakugo's quirk, and he takes away Kaminari's quirk, he can't use Kaminari's quirk for at least a day, and so on and so forth. So that's the power of his quirk. Now, this is when Lee says, "Wait, he has a sword quirk?" And Hisashi says, "Huh. Well, it's settled. The victor is Lee." And this is when Lee says, "Oh, thank you, father. I'm going to go train again." This is when Lee looks behind him and he sees Deku just confused. And he says, "Well, it looks like he has a quirk. Now I gotta get better so that way he doesn't actually, one-up me on the next time. Or he doesn't get the one-up on me." Now, Deku sees Hisashi, and Hisashi grabs him by his clothing, and he says, "You and me are going to have a walk." And this is when Deku just starts walking with Hisashi, and he says, what are we going to do, Dad?" And Hisashi says, "Oh, that's simple. I want you to see me use my quirk." And this is when Hisashi starts grabbing his sword, and when he pulls it out, fire starts emitting from it. And this is when he says, "This is my quirk. It's called Blaze Sword. And how it works is this." So Deku's dad just gets into a stance, ready to actually run while going to swing the sword. And while doing it, he's aiming at one of the dummies that are placed up in the back, like in the training area. And he starts swinging, and while doing it, basically he becomes a ball of fire, hitting, destroying most things in his path. And this is when Deku says, "That's amazing." And this is when he says, "Well, since you have a sword quirk, now you have to learn how to use that quirk." And he says, "Try using the sidestep. Since it reminds me of your brothers, that's what I might just call it now." It's fascinating. I never knew anybody would I never knew that you would have a quirk. I was starting to have my doubts about, training you in the stronger, sorry about that. He was saying that he doesn't know that if he was going to train him using his own skills, because Deku really didn't have a quirk, so he didn't know what to base it off on. Now, he has other brothers, but we'll talk about those in the later future. If there's a later future. Like I said before, he has about... You know what? Let's say he has 3 brothers, because having 7 would be, like, a hard thing to remember. So, yeah, I'm sorry, you guys, but... Anyway, Deku starts, going about it and trying to use his sidestep. And he says, you remind me of your brother when he tried using his quirk. Try thinking about where you want to go. Think about going behind you, in front of you, in between, up in the air. Try thinking about that. Don't think about going fast. Think about the next destination." And Deku says, "Alright." So this is when Deku's sword basically resonates with him. And this is when he goes again, but he actually goes in front of him. And he actually makes it. This is when Deku actually is on the ground breathing. And he says, "I'm sorry, Dad. well, why am I so tired? And, well, Hisashi says, the reason why you're tired is because, well, it takes stamina away from you. Think about it. You had to think before you act. I told you where to go, but you went a little farther than your brother did, which means you excelled just a tiny bit, but you don't know how to control it yet. Think about it like this. If I were to go and do the sidestep, which, if you're thinking that everybody can learn the quirk, they can't learn the quirk. It's basically their own quirk. But it doesn't mean that they can't it doesn't mean that they can't try it, because, it's fun to do it. So Deku says, alright, so how does the sidestep work without, making me tired? And this is when Hisashi says, oh, it's always going to do that to you, but you have to know when to use it. You used it not knowing where you were going to go. You just thought where the destination was at. It's going to make you tired either way. It's one of the most weirdest forms of teleportation without teleportation. Technically, if you wanted to, you could go all the way to America using the sidestep. But you will die. And this is when he says, wait, why? And this is when Hisashi says, because it will take so much energy out of you that if you even attempt it, you're pretty much going to have to say goodbye. And this is when Hisashi says, but either way, you tried, but one day you'll get better at your quirk. Think about it. There's no possible way that you could just go to America, but you can make it from one side of the house to the other side of the house in one fell swoop. And this is when Deku is actually trying to do that, but he says, alright, let's go again. And Hisashi says, alright, remember, try to focus on how you're going to go from one place to the other one. And Deku basically said, alright, that's simple enough. I have to think. Alright. And this is when he grabs his sword and he just starts running. And Hisashi says, he's not actually listening to me at all. Where is Inko at? I need her right now. Oh man, he's so little. But I dealt with the other little creatures that I had. I should not have any more children. And that's what he's thinking right now. But this is when he's actually flabbergasted, because Deku grabs his sword and is actually swinging it downwards. And what happens is he becomes a fireball for those couple of seconds and actually hits the ground, causing it to explode, and Deku falling, well, technically flying backwards. And Deku is technically knocked out. And while he's knocked out, Hisashi just says, wait a minute. What? Hold on here. Does he... Oh gosh. Oh my lord. I think we have a winner right here. And while Deku was on the ground, he wakes up. Hisashi says, son, you did it. You yourself have obtained something even powerful than what I've hoped for. And Deku says, what do you mean? And he says, take a look. You did the exact same thing that I did. But you weren't thinking about it consciously. You were thinking about using the sidestep. which made you just be happy and started running. But while that happened, you slammed your sword and then became a fireball using my technique. My technique. My technique. And Deku says, "What does that mean? I don't understand, father." And this is when Deku says, this is when Hisashi says, "You might have a power that's even stronger than us. You may have a power that even rivals anything that could be imagined." And this is when Deku says, "Okay, so what does that mean? You're still not you're not answering me." And Hisashi says, all right. I want you to look at your mother. I actually forgot that your mother's not here." So basically he yells out for Inko. Inko, hearing this, running, and this is when Hisashi says, "Look at that. This is my wife. I love her so much." And this is when Izuku says, "Well, I thought you were I thought you could, how do I say it? I thought you were married to Mom." And Hisashi says, "I am married to your mom." And this is when he says, "But, oh gosh. All right, Izuku, zip it. I need to talk to your mother about something." And this is when Hisashi says, all right. Forget the quirk training. Forget everything else. Gather everyone around." And Deku starts, walking back with his father. And Deku says, "Oh no, I got you." And this is when he grabs Deku. And Deku is like, "Where are we going? This is actually pretty fun. I'm all the way high up here." Hisashi says, "I'm actually going to tell everybody that we may have like one of the most strongest quirk users ever, or sword users ever, going to be written in history." And Deku is like, "All right, so what's going to happen?" And this is when Hisashi says, "All right, everybody sit down. Grab a bottle of sake. Tell the lower class to come over here as well." And everybody started going into that one place, the one settlement, the one food place. And he says, "Everybody, pour a glass of sake. I have good news for all. We did it. Well, technically, I did it, but technically, my son did it. We may have one of the most strongest users of sword history. He will be known as, well, he's going to be my successor." And everybody was like, "Whoa, wait a minute, your successor?" And this is when Deku is like, "What does that mean?" And this is when he's like, well, technically this is when Hisashi says, "You are going to be the new head of the Wrath family." And if you guys think I'm saying rat, no. I'm saying Wrath, not 6ix9ine. So, what I'm trying to say is, basically, Deku is now going to be the new head when he gets older. And not only that, Hisashi says, "This boy has the ability to copy other quirks and possibly sword techniques. As far as I know, he was not gifted a quirk like everybody else, but the birthing of swords is something he still has. Now, we may not know this 100%, So, I call Inko. I'm calling Inko to come over here right at this moment. Inko gets up, and she says, yes, dear? And Hisashi says, well, I need you to use your quirk. And she says, oh, okay. And this is when Deku starts seeing Inko use her quirk. And she starts, floating everything. And this is, she starts to actually pull things in front of her and starts using it to spin. And this is when Deku sees it, and he's like, oh, okay, that's how Mom does it. And if for some reason Deku was reading how the quirk is being used. And this is when Deku starts to see how he can work with his sword. And Deku says, so I had to mimic Mom? And this is when Hisashi says, yes. So basically, he has his sword, and his sword is actually moving around with Deku looking at the sword and seeing how it's going. Everybody is like, what the hell is this? What is this? And Deku can move the sword with his mind. And it's a weird version of One for All. Like I said, he's somewhat copying their quirks, but he can't use like 5 quirks at once. He can only use 2 quirks at the moment. So Deku starts moving things and actually almost cuts a pig. Because one of the cooks is serving it, and he just starts, and it shoots straight towards the wall, almost hitting the guy, and almost hitting the pig too. So everybody looks at that hole right there, and Deku grabs his sword, and technically the sword comes to him, and Deku grabs it, and they're like, is there anyone else that needs proof? And they're like, all right. So he may actually learn how to use telekinesis, but that's what his mother has, and technically that's his mother. So he may have the same kind of quirk as well. This doesn't prove a thing. And people aren't doing it to be spiteful. They're just like, oh, he just has a quirk as well. This is nothing to be like, so, oh my gosh, oh, what the hell, So this is when somebody from the shadow kind of clan, because there's like, say this, there's the Wrath family, and 4 other clans right there, miniature clans that are settling there. One is the Fire clan, which Hisashi technically resides in. The Water clan, that basically uses water type things, and other things that technically will help water abilities out. The Wind clan, that pretty much is dominant in, wind, and the Shadow clan, which there is technically no Earth clan. Technically no Earth clan at all. So usually you could technically can shoot out rubber out of your hands, and they'll probably put you in one of these clans that best suits them. So Deku has somebody from the Shadow clan use their quirk. And this quirk gets to, give me a second here. Hold on here, how this works, okay. Alright, this is Tokoyami. There's gonna be a ship. So, yeah. Now, anyway, they basically ask her to do this one thing. And she says, alright, what shall I do? And this is when they say, let him copy your quirk. If he can copy your quirk, because hers is the only one that is actually no more of Shadow Clan material than any other one. Because there's some people who could just make things darker, some people can actually hide in shadows and all that stuff, but hers is actually like it's dark shadow. That's really her thing. So they're like, all right. So Deku looks at her quirk and starts analyzing it. And when he does it, he actually copies her quirk. And Deku feels a little woozy there. But it's actually more of a fox. More than anything else. And they're like, alright, it's a fox. And then it's when it starts, molding its face and it looks like a skeleton. And this is when they're like, okay, that's a skeleton. This is when it turns into a frog. And they're like, we're definitely confused. Tokoyami's confused, and she's like, wait a minute. Can you do that? And this is when Dark Shadow says, no, I don't. Mind you, they're technically children, so it's not that big of a deal. Now, Deku says, alright, I have a quirk. I have technically something that copies quirks, even though I showed it to you 4 freaking times. And Deku basically hears a bunch of people roaring, saying, the nuke successor is here. We don't actually have to fight. We just know it's going to be given to him. And the 3 brothers are kind of jealous, but at the same time, they're like, yeah, we really can't beat him. So really, we're gonna love him still. And now he's like one of us, but he's like better than us, but we're bigger than him, but he could beat us up. So we're not gonna actually get to that point to make Deku angry, because if you know anything about anime protagonists, if you make the anime protagonist angry, he's going to change his tune and he's going to hurt you. As is all things that had happened. But anyway, after that, Deku basically, trains, but all he does is block, which makes Hisashi just wonder why does he want to block. And Deku says it's because he doesn't want to hurt anyone, and he doesn't like hurting anyone, and it's scary. And Hisashi says, alright, maybe we'll try some other time. And this is when Deku says, I'm sorry. And Hisashi says, no problem. It's alright. Mind you, he's 8 years old now. This is when Deku sees Hisashi shoot his sword and actually swing at him, causing Deku to be pushed back a heck of a lot. And Deku is basically saying, Dad, why are you doing this? I thought you said we were going to stop. And he says, foolish child. Do you think that's going to be the end of it? You think that just because I said, alright, I'm not going to swing at you, that means you should let down your guard? Think about it. There's going to be stronger people. More stronger than me. I am not the strongest one out there. There is one who's better than me. He is more formidable. Just because I can swing my sword doesn't mean I'm better. It just means that I'm better than most people. And this is when Deku says, alright. And he says, think about the next challenge. And the challenge after that. Do not be fooled by the world. It's going to hurt you, whether you like it or not. You just need to know when to stand up for yourself. Grab that sword. Tear down your enemies. It doesn't matter how many there are. It just means that the more there are, the more you have to keep pushing down. The more you must cut. You don't kill them, but when need be, you have to. It is a desire to become stronger in this family. You do not grasp the concept yet, but one day you will. And you'll see that there's going to be people that gain strength after beating you, or lose strength after you beat them. In this world, you gain more strength to get powerful, or you get more powerful to gain strength. Fight, no matter what. Push beyond your limits. Make them fear you. You are the next head of the household. There's no more room for being a pushover. And Deku says, wow, that's very something. Give me a second here. It was an old quote of my the 16th generation grandfather that said this. I may not know the whole words, but I keep it to heart. There is nothing outside of yourself that can get you stronger, faster, better, richer. Nowhere in this world that can make you do that except yourself. Beyond your limits, pushed past it. Beyond the depths of hell, plunge through it. Eat well, sleep well, live well, be happy. Fight to get more power. Get more power to fight. There is no need to fear that anymore, because that power that you have, it's your own. Sure, you may be getting power from outside sources, but you also keep that tempered into your head. It is because you know that you're not going to be fooling yourself, like every other household that's ever tried to fight me before. Now, what happened a long time ago with Isashi was, there's other families that have their own clans and all that stuff, and some of them try to beat Deku's dad. There's like a clan that used to do poison. It wasn't in not Deku's Deku's dad. There wasn't like a poison clan in Hisashi's group, but there was a household in like some parts of Japan that decide to go after him and say that they want to fight him in order to be known as the strongest family. Hisashi slaughtered them. And sure, police were called, but Hisashi in the very end can't get in trouble because of the government. So if he's ever dead, it's because he accepted the challenge, or at least was assassinated. But either way, Deku decides to become stronger after that. And he's scared though, but he knows that he has to push it. He knows that blocking isn't going to be the thing that he can do forever. So, after the age of 12, Deku goes to middle school. Well, technically it's the end of his middle school years. And that's where I'm going to leave it off. If you guys like this one, it's going to be known as What If Deku Had an Omni Sword Quirk. It's not, it just came into mind, and I know you guys probably will like it or probably not. But, hey, if you like it, like, comment, do subscribe to the channel here, people. This has been the Fallout with a Fear. Bye.